The Dublin contract, a refusal of destiny. The champagne glass was halfway to my lips when Chloe stood up. The screech of her chair cut through the celebration like a knife. I should have seen it coming. The way Mom had insisted on this dinner tonight. The way Dad kept checking his watch. The 20 relatives crammed around a table sagging under $500 of catered food. My food. My celebration. My promotion. But nothing was ever really mine, was it? Chloe pressed her fingers to her temples. That gesture. The one she'd perfected in front of mirrors since she was 16. Fragile, suffering, brave. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said, voice already trembling, "but I can't hold this in anymore." My grip tightened on the champagne stem. Here it comes. "I quit my job this morning." Gasps rippled around the table. "Marcus and I are starting our own business. Living authentically, following our dreams." Mom reached for Chloe's hand. Dad nodded approvingly. Aunt Susan clutched her pearls. The performance was working. Then Chloe turned to me. 20 pairs of eyes followed. "Eleanor, you've always been our rock." Her tears started right on cue. "Marcus and I need help getting established. Just $3,000 a month for the first few months. Mom said you'd be happy to help. That's what family does, right?" The silence crushed down like a physical weight. Everyone staring, waiting, expecting me to reach for my checkbook like I always did. $3,000 a month. Announced at my celebration. Not asked, assumed, decided before she even quit. I looked at the prime rib and lobster tail spread across the table. The food I'd paid for because Dad said the promoted daughter should treat the family, not a celebration. Advanced billing. 6 months of 80-hour weeks. 15 years of being their emergency fund. Every achievement hijacked into another extraction operation. My hands started shaking, not from fear, from rage. I set down the champagne glass. The click of crystal on wood cut through the silence. "No." Chloe blinked. "What?" "I said no." I stood up my chair, scraping back hard. "Your unemployment is not my responsibility." The room erupted. Aunt Susan gasped. Uncle Robert's face went red. Mom's hand flew to her chest. "Eleanor." Dad's voice carried 32 years of conditioning. "That's your sister. And this is my life, my money, my decision." "How can you be so selfish?" Chloe's tears dried up fast. "I'm your family." I looked around the table, at Aunt Susan, whose car insurance I'd covered, at Uncle Robert, whose business loan I'd co-signed, at parents whose mortgage I'd been paying for 3 years. "When was the last time any of you asked what I needed?" The words came out cold, hard. When was the last time being family mattered when I wasn't writing a check? Silence. The kind that comes from being caught. "I'm leaving." "We're not done." Mom's voice cracked like a whip. "Sit down." "Yes, we are." I grabbed my coat and walked toward the door. Behind me, the accusations started. Selfish. Ungrateful. Heartless. Every weapon they'd sharpened over years of conditioning. I kept walking. Eleanor Ann Vance. Dad's voice stopped me at the threshold. "If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back." I turned to face them one last time. The family I'd been funding. The celebration they'd turned into an ambush. The people who saw me as a bank account, never a person. "Okay." The shock on their faces was almost worth it. Almost. I walked out into the November cold and didn't look back. In my car hands, shaking on the steering wheel, I pulled out the Dublin contract I'd been carrying for 3 weeks. The offer that would take me 5,000 miles away from this. I'd been hesitating, telling myself I couldn't abandon my family, that they needed me. But they didn't need me. They needed my money. I clicked on the dome light and signed every page. My signature was messy but definitive. 15 years of family peace destroyed by one word. No. The easiest word in the English language. The one I'd never learned to say. Until tonight. Before we go any further, if this story resonates with you, if you've ever felt trapped by obligation disguised as love, hit that like button. Subscribe, because what happens next will change everything you think you know about family loyalty. Drop a comment telling me if you've ever had to choose between your peace and your people, because trust me, you're going to want to see how this ends. Let me take you back to the beginning to show you how I became the family's personal ATM. Their emotional support animal, their forever emergency fund. I was 20 when I got my first real job. Nothing fancy, just an entry-level position at a mid-sized consulting firm, but the pay was decent. $42,000 a year felt like winning the lottery after 4 years of surviving on ramen and student loans. I remember the exact moment I saw that first paycheck direct deposited into my account. I sat in my tiny studio apartment, the one with the broken heater and the neighbors who fought at 2 a.m., and I cried. Not from relief, though there was that. I cried because I thought I'd finally done it. I'd made it. I was going to be okay. I called Mom first. Wanted to share the good news, wanted her to be proud. "That's wonderful, honey," she said, her voice warm. Then after a pause that should have warned me, "You know your father got laid off last week. The factory's doing another round of cuts. We're a little worried about making the mortgage this month." I should have heard the request buried in that statement. Should have recognized the pattern being established. But I was 20 and naive and desperate to prove I was a good daughter. "How much do you need?" I asked. That was the first time. $800. I told myself it was temporary. Told myself Dad would find another job soon and pay me back. He never did, and I never asked. Within 3 months, helping had become expected. Chloe needed art supplies for her community college classes. $200. Mom's car needed new brakes. $400. Dad's medication copays were due. $350. Each time I said yes. Each time I pushed my own needs a little further down the priority list. By the time I was 22, I'd moved to a better apartment, but still couldn't afford furniture. I slept on an air mattress and ate cereal for dinner 3 nights a week because I'd sent most of my paycheck home. But I told myself I was building something. Building proof that I mattered, that I was valuable, that I was the kind of daughter parents could be proud of. My coworkers would invite me out for drinks on Friday nights. I'd make excuses. The truth was, I couldn't afford a $15 cocktail when Chloe needed gas money or Mom needed help with the utility bill. I watched them bond over happy hours and weekend trips while I bonded with my Excel spreadsheet calculating how much I could send home and still make rent. I met Daniel when I was 24. He was a contractor brought in for a software implementation project. Quiet, methodical, with these deep brown eyes that actually listened when you talked. We got coffee during a break in a particularly brutal meeting. Then coffee turned into dinner. Then dinner turned into weekends spent exploring the city, talking about everything and nothing. 3 months in, he noticed I never ordered appetizers, never got dessert, always checked my banking app before agreeing to anything that cost more than $20. "Are you okay financially?" he asked one evening, careful and kind. "Because if you need help." "I'm fine," I lied. "Just saving for something." "What?" I couldn't tell him the truth, that I was saving for nothing because there was nothing left to save, that every spare dollar went to my family's endless needs, that I'd been wearing the same 3 work outfits for a year because I couldn't justify buying clothes when Dad needed help with property taxes. So I kissed him instead of answering, and he let it go. But Daniel noticed things. He noticed I never invited him to family dinners, noticed I tensed up every time my phone rang, noticed the way I'd excuse myself to handle something and come back looking drained. 6 months into our relationship, we were at his apartment when my phone rang. Mom. I almost didn't answer, but old habits die hard. "Eleanor, honey, we have a situation." I stepped into Daniel's bedroom for privacy, but the walls were thin. "What's wrong?" "Chloe wants to transfer to that art school in New York. You know, the one she's been talking about? It's a really good opportunity for her." "Okay." "Well, the tuition is expensive, and with your father still looking for steady work, we can't really help her. We were hoping you could co-sign on a student loan, just as a backup. She'll pay it herself once she graduates." I looked at the ceiling, counted to 5, tried to find a way to say no. "How much?" $40,000 for the first year. "But Eleanor, this is really going to change her life. This is what she's meant to do." I thought about my own student loans, the ones I'd be paying until I was 40, the ones nobody had helped me with. I'll think about it." "She needs an answer by Friday. The deposit is due." Of course it was. When I came back out, Daniel was pretending to read, but I could tell he'd heard everything. "You don't have to do it," he said quietly. "She's my sister." "That doesn't make it your responsibility. You don't understand family. I understand you're 24 years old and you're still eating ramen so your parents can make their mortgage." That stung because it was true, but I co-signed the loan anyway. $40,000 I'd be on the hook for if Chloe defaulted. I told myself it would be fine. Told myself she'd actually finish this time, actually make something of herself. She lasted 1 semester. The call came in January, Chloe crying, saying the program wasn't nurturing her authentic creative voice. The professors didn't understand her vision. The other students were cliquey and pretentious. She was coming home. What about the loan? I asked, my voice hollow. Mom said you'd take care of it. Of course she did. That was the first time I felt something crack inside. Not break, not yet. Just a tiny fissure in the foundation I'd been building. I was 25 when I got promoted to project manager. My salary nearly doubled. $75,000 a year. I should have been celebrating. Should have been planning a vacation, buying a new car, starting a real savings account. Instead, I moved into a better apartment and immediately got a call from Mom. Eleanor, honey, we're so proud of you. A pause. Your father's truck needs a new transmission. The mechanic quoted $3,000. We were hoping since you just got that big promotion. I paid for the transmission and the following month's car insurance and the month after that. By 26, I was handling not just emergencies, but regular bills. The arrangement had somehow evolved without my consent. Mom would text me when utility bills were due. Dad would mention property taxes coming up. Chloe, back at home and working part-time at a coffee shop, needed help with her phone bill, her car payment, her credit card debt from her freelance photography equipment. I set up automatic payments for their utilities. Told myself it was easier than getting constant requests. Didn't realize I was automating my own entrapment. Daniel and I had been together 2 years when he asked me to move in with him. His apartment was beautiful, a renovated loft in a neighborhood I'd always dreamed of living in. Real hardwood floors, exposed brick, a kitchen with actual counter space. I can't, I said. Why not? It's complicated. Is it me? No, God, no, it's just my family. He sat down across from me, patient as always. Eleanor, talk to me. Really talk to me. So I did. I told him everything. Every payment, every loan, every co-signed disaster. Told him about the Excel spreadsheet I kept tracking every dollar I sent home. Told him I was functionally supporting 4 adults on one salary. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. How much? He finally asked. How much what? How much are you sending them every month? I'd never added it up, didn't want to face that number, but I pulled up my spreadsheet and calculated. About $2,000 a month, sometimes more if there's an emergency. Daniel's face went pale. Eleanor, that's almost a third of your take-home pay. They're my family. And you're destroying yourself for people who don't even thank you. That's not fair, isn't it? When's the last time your mother asked how you were doing? When's the last time your father said thank you? When's the last time Chloe showed any interest in your life that wasn't about what you could do for her? I couldn't answer because he was right. Move in with me, he said. Stop the automatic payments. Tell them you need a break. Just 6 months to get your own finances in order. If they love you, they'll understand. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But the thought of saying no, of disappointing them, of being the bad daughter, the selfish sister, made me physically ill. I need to think about it, I said. We didn't talk about it again for weeks, but it sat between us, this unspoken tension. Daniel started working longer hours. I started making excuses to stay late at the office. We were still together, but we were both holding our breath, waiting for something to give. That something came on a Thursday in October. I was 27. I'd been invited to my parents' house for what Mom called a family dinner. Just the 4 of us, she said. Nothing special, just dinner. I should have known better. I walked in to find not just my parents and Chloe, but Aunt Susan, Uncle Robert, 2 cousins I hadn't seen in years, and Marcus Thorne. Marcus was Chloe's new boyfriend. They'd been dating for 3 months, and every time Chloe talked about him, it was with this breathless enthusiasm that made me tired just listening. He was an entrepreneur, she said, a visionary. He was going to change the world. He looked like a used car salesman in an expensive suit. Dinner was awkward. Too many people crammed around a table meant for 6. Aunt Susan kept making passive-aggressive comments about my work-life balance. Must be nice being so focused on your career. Some of us prioritize family. Uncle Robert asked invasive questions about my salary, disguising them as casual interest. And Marcus. Marcus held court like he was the guest of honor, talking about his startup in vague terms that meant nothing. Blockchain, disruption, paradigm shifts. Chloe hung on every word, her eyes shining with something that looked like love, but felt more like desperation. After dinner, Mom ushered everyone into the living room. I tried to leave, claimed I had work in the morning, but Dad's hand on my shoulder was firm. "Stay, we need to talk to you." That's when I knew. This wasn't a family dinner, it was an intervention. Mom sat down, folding her hands like she was about to deliver bad news. "Eleanor, honey, we wanted everyone here because this affects the whole family. What does—" Marcus leaned forward, all confidence and charm. "Eleanor, I've been telling Chloe about this opportunity I have. It's a really innovative startup. We're developing an app that connects freelance artists with clients, kind of like Uber for art commissions." I'd heard this pitch before. Every tech bro with a laptop and a dream had some variation of it. "Okay," I said carefully. "The thing is, we're at a critical stage. We have interest from investors, but we need to show we have skin in the game, that the founders are committed." "Founders?" I looked at Chloe. "You're a founder." She nodded eagerly. "Marcus says I have the creative vision. I'd be the chief creative officer of a company that didn't exist yet." Marcus continued. "We need to raise 100,000 in seed funding. I'm putting in 30, Chloe's putting in 10. We need to show we can raise the rest from friends and family. That's where you come in." The room went silent. Everyone was looking at me. "How much?" I asked, though I already knew this was going to be bad. "We were hoping for 50,000. It would be an investment, obviously. Once we're profitable, you'd get your money back plus returns." $50,000 for a company that didn't exist. For an app that sounded like a dozen other failed startups. For my sister's boyfriend, who I'd met exactly 3 times. "No," I said. The word hung in the air like smoke. Mom's face fell. "Eleanor, don't be hasty. This is a real opportunity." "For who?" "For your sister. For all of us. If this succeeds, it could change everything. And if it fails—" "It won't fail." Marcus said, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "I've done this before. I know what I'm doing." "Then you don't need my money." Chloe's eyes filled with tears. "I can't believe you'd be so unsupportive. This is my dream, Eleanor. This is what I've been working toward. You worked in a coffee shop for 6 months and quit because the manager made you clean the espresso machine." Her face crumpled. "That's not fair." "What's not fair is asking me to risk $50,000 on a pipe dream." Dad's voice cut through the room hard as stone. "Watch your tone. That's your sister you're talking about." "And I'm her sister. But apparently that only matters when she needs money." Aunt Susan chimed in, her voice dripping with disappointment. "Eleanor, I raised you better than this. Family helps family." "I've been helping," I said, my voice rising. "I've been helping for 7 years. I've paid for school that wasn't finished. I've paid bills that aren't mine. I've co-signed loans I'm still paying off. Where does it end?" "It ends when you stop being selfish," Mom said, her voice cold. That word, selfish. I'd been called a lot of things in my life. Responsible, reliable, the strong one. But selfish. That was new. "I'm not giving you $50,000, I said, standing up. "And I'm done with this conversation." I walked out. Nobody followed me. In my car, hands shaking on the steering wheel, I called Daniel. "I need you," I said, my voice breaking. He was at my apartment in 20 minutes. I told him everything. He held me while I cried angry tears that had been building for years. When I finally stopped, he pulled back and looked at me. "Move in with me, tonight. Pack a bag. Come stay with me. You don't have to decide anything right now. Just get out of this for a minute." I wanted to, but my phone was already buzzing. Texts from Mom, from Dad, from Chloe, paragraphs of accusations wrapped in victim language. I didn't move in with Daniel that night, but something shifted. I'd said no. Not to a small thing, not to something I could rationalize away. I'd said no to something big, something they really wanted, and I was still alive. The world hadn't ended. My family was angry, but they'd been angry before. The difference was, this time I didn't feel guilty. The next few weeks were brutal. Radio silence from my family, which was somehow worse than their constant demands. No calls, no texts, nothing. Then right before Thanksgiving, Mom called. "Eleanor, we need to talk about the holidays." "Okay." "Your father and I feel it's important that family comes together during difficult times. We'd like you to come for Thanksgiving. Chloe will be here, Marcus too. We think it would be good for everyone to clear the air." "I'll think about it." It would mean a lot to your father. The guilt card. I'd seen it played 1,000 times, but this time I had Daniel's voice in my head. They don't love you because you fix everything. They love you because it's convenient. I'll let you know, I said and hung up before she could push further. I went to Thanksgiving, told myself I could handle it. Told myself maybe they'd changed, maybe that night had been a turning point for all of us. I was so naive. Chloe arrived 40 minutes late in a new coat Burberry, easily $1,000. She air-kissed everyone like she was gracing us with her presence. Marcus was with her naturally, and he'd brought printed business proposals. For everyone. We made it through appetizers before the ambush began. "Eleanor," Mom said, her voice overly sweet. "Chloe wanted to talk to you about something." Chloe dabbed at her lips with a napkin, the picture of innocence. "So Marcus and I have been talking. We realized the $50,000 might be too much to ask. We're willing to lower it to $30,000, and you wouldn't have to pay it all at once. We could do a payment plan." I set down my fork. I said no. "I know, but we've made some changes to the business plan. Marcus, show her." Marcus slid a professionally bound document across the table. I didn't touch it. "Marcus," I said, keeping my voice level, "I'm going to be very clear. I'm not investing in your company. Not $30,000, not $15,000, not $1,000. I'm not giving you money. Are we understood?" His smile tightened. "I think you're making a mistake. This is a real opportunity." "Then you should have no problem finding investors who aren't your girlfriend's family." Dad cleared his throat. "Eleanor, you're being rude." "I'm being honest." Mom's voice went sharp. "Your sister is trying to build something. The least you could do is support her. I've supported her for 7 years. I've supported all of you. I'm done." Chloe's tears started right on cue. "See, Marcus, I told you she wouldn't help. I told you she only cares about herself." "That's not true." "Then prove it," Chloe said, her voice breaking. "Prove you care about me. About us. About this family." I looked around at the table, at Mom with her practiced look of disappointment, at Dad with his stern judgment, at Aunt Susan shaking her head like I'd personally offended her, at Chloe, tears streaming down her face in a performance I'd seen 100 times. And I realized something. This wasn't my family. This was a hostage situation with a turkey. "I'm leaving," I said, standing up. "If you walk out that door," Dad said, his voice low and dangerous, "don't bother coming back." I grabbed my coat. "Okay." The shock on their faces was almost worth it. I drove straight to Daniel's apartment. He opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. "I'm ready," I said. "If the offer still stands, I'm ready to move in. I'm ready to stop. I'm ready for all of it to end." He kissed my forehead. "Pack your stuff. I'll help you tomorrow." That night, I lay in his bed staring at the ceiling and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Pure, uncomplicated relief. The next morning, my phone exploded. Texts, calls, voicemails, all from different family members with the same message. I was selfish. I was ungrateful. I was destroying the family. I'd regret this. I turned off my phone and went to work. That Monday, I got called into my boss's office. For a split second, I panicked, thinking somehow my family drama had followed me here. But instead, she smiled and pushed a folder across her desk. "How do you feel about Ireland?" "Ireland. Dublin specifically. We're opening a European office. We need someone to head up the transition. Full relocation package, 50% salary increase, company housing for the first year. And Eleanor, this is a career-making opportunity." I stared at the folder. Inside was a contract detailed and official. Start date the first Monday of next month. "Can I think about it?" "Take the weekend, but Eleanor, between you and me, you're our first choice. You're the only choice." I took the folder home, showed it to Daniel that night. He read through it carefully, then looked up at me. "Are you going to take it?" "I don't know. It's a big move, and we just started living together. We've been together 3 years, and Eleanor, I can work remotely. My company doesn't care where I am as long as I deliver. If you want to go to Dublin, we go to Dublin. You'd do that. I'd do anything for you, especially if it means getting you away from them." I didn't sign it that weekend. I needed to think, needed to make sure I was running toward something, not just away from something. But then Wednesday came, and with it a text from Chloe. "I quit my job. You'll cover us until I'm stable." Not a question, not a request, a statement of fact. And I was back in my kitchen coffee cup frozen halfway to my lips, staring at those 7 words. 7 words that assumed I'd say yes. 7 words that took for granted that my money, my time, my life was theirs to claim. 7 words that finally definitively broke me free. I set down the cup, typed my response. That's not my responsibility. Send. Then I opened my laptop, found the Dublin contract, and signed every page. The notification appeared. Document complete. Your start date is confirmed for Monday. 5 minutes later, another text from Chloe. Did you really just say that to me? I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my banking app, found every automatic payment to my family, and canceled them, every single one. Chloe's phone bill, canceled. My parents' utilities, canceled. The car insurance for Chloe's car, canceled. The streaming services I paid for that they used, canceled. Each click felt like cutting a cord. Each cancellation felt like taking back a piece of myself. My phone started ringing. Mom. I didn't answer. A text from Dad. Call your mother. I didn't. Another text from Mom. We need to talk. This is serious. I typed back. I'll be in Dublin by this time next week. If there's an actual emergency, email me. Then I muted the entire family group chat. Daniel came home to find me sitting on the couch, staring at nothing. I did it, I said. I signed the contract. I canceled everything. I told them no. He sat down next to me, taking my hand. How do you feel? Terrified, relieved, free, like I'm about to throw up. All of it at once. That sounds about right. What if I'm making a mistake? He turned to face me fully. Eleanor, listen to me. You've spent your entire adult life making sure everyone else was okay. You've sacrificed your savings, your peace of mind, your ability to build your own life. And they never once asked if you were okay. That's not family. That's exploitation. They're going to hate me. Maybe. But you're going to love yourself. That's a fair trade. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about every choice that led me here. Every time I said yes when I meant no. Every time I swallowed my own needs to meet someone else's wants. Every time I believed that being needed was the same as being loved. Thursday morning, my phone rang before my alarm. Mom. I answered, which was my first mistake. Eleanor Ann Vance, what is going on? My middle name, always a bad sign. I'm moving to Dublin for work. Without discussing it with your family. I don't need permission. The hell you don't? We're your family. We have a right to weigh in on major life decisions. No, you don't. Excuse me. You don't have a right to weigh in on my decisions. You're not my boss. You're not my financial advisor. You're my mother, but that doesn't give you veto power over my life. How dare you speak to me like this? How dare you treat me like an ATM for 7 years? She hung up on me. 2 minutes later, a text from Dad. Family meeting tonight, your apartment, 7 p.m., be there. I almost laughed. They were going to hold a meeting about my life in my own home as if they had any authority here. I texted back, no, just that. No explanation, no excuse, just no. The response was immediate. Dad called. I declined. He called again. Declined. On the third call, I answered. What part of no is confusing? I said. Don't you take that tone with me. I'm 32 years old. I'll take whatever tone I want. We're coming over whether you like it or not. If you show up at my apartment, I won't answer the door. Eleanor. I'm done, Dad. I'm done being the family bank. I'm done feeling guilty for having boundaries. I'm done with all of it. You're being selfish. Good, it's about time. I hung up. At 6:52 that evening, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole to see Dad, Mom, and Chloe standing in the hallway. Dad's face was red. Mom was crying. Chloe looked furious. I didn't open the door. Eleanor, open up. Dad called. We're not leaving until we talk to you. I stayed silent, standing perfectly still behind the door. Eleanor Ann, I mean it. Open this door right now. I turned off the lights and sat on my couch in the dark, waiting. They rang the doorbell 6 more times, knocked for 10 minutes. I heard Dad muttering about disrespect and Mom's muffled sobs. Heard Chloe call me a bitch through the door. Finally, they left. I sat in the dark for another hour, my heart pounding before Daniel called. How are you holding up? They came to my apartment. I didn't let them in. Good. Is it good I feel like I'm losing my mind? You're not losing your mind. You're setting boundaries. It just feels weird because you've never done it before. He was right. I'd spent 3 decades being whatever they needed me to be. This was the first time I was choosing to be what I needed. Friday was worse. The voicemails started early. Mom crying about how I was tearing the family apart. Dad angry about my disrespect. Aunt Susan disappointed that I wasn't living up to the values they'd instilled in me. And Chloe. Chloe left 5 voicemails, each more hysterical than the last. I was ruining her life. I was sabotaging her future. I was jealous that she had Marcus and I only had Daniel. She hoped I'd be happy alone in Ireland with no family to come home to. That last one stung more than I wanted to admit. By Friday evening, I was exhausted, emotionally wrung out, second-guessing everything. What if they were right? What if I was being selfish? What if family was supposed to be hard and I was just taking the easy way out? Daniel found me sitting on the bathroom floor at midnight, scrolling through old photos on my phone. Family Christmases, birthdays, summer barbecues, everyone smiling, everyone happy. Those moments were real, he said softly, sitting down next to me. But so is everything else. The manipulation, the guilt, the way they only call when they need something. You can love them and still need to protect yourself from them. I don't know if I can do this. You already are. Saturday morning, I woke up to an email from Mom. The subject line was "One more chance." Against my better judgment, I opened it. Eleanor, we've always been proud of you. You're our strong one, our reliable one. We've come to depend on you because you've always been so capable. Maybe we've taken that for granted. If you need some space, we understand. But please don't throw away your family over money. Money isn't important. Family is. We love you. I read it 3 times, felt the old guilt starting to creep back in. The maybe they're right voice. The maybe I'm overreacting voice. Then I noticed what the email didn't say. It didn't say sorry. It didn't acknowledge years of exploitation. It didn't offer to change. It just reframed the problem as my sensitivity, my inability to handle what family required. I closed the email without responding. That afternoon, I started packing. Daniel helped carefully wrapping dishes and books while I sorted through clothes. My apartment felt smaller with each box, like my life was condensing into something manageable, something I could actually carry. Sunday, my phone rang, an unknown number. I answered without thinking. Eleanor, it's Marcus. I almost hung up immediately. How did you get this number? Chloe gave it to me. Listen, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Can we talk adult to adult? We're talking now. I mean in person. I'm actually outside your building. My stomach dropped. I went to the window. Sure enough, Marcus was standing on the sidewalk, phone to his ear, looking up at my building. What are you doing here? I wanted to discuss the investment opportunity. I think if you just hear me out, really hear me out without all the family drama, you'll see this is solid. I'm not interested. Just 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. 5 minutes to show you the numbers. No, Eleanor, I think you're letting your feelings about your family cloud your business judgment. This isn't personal, this is just business. My personal money for your personal business. That sounds pretty personal to me. I've got the whole pitch deck on my laptop. I'm in my car. I can come up, show you everything. You'll see this is legitimate. If I agree to 5 minutes, will you leave and never contact me again? If you still want me to after you see the numbers, yes. Against every instinct, I buzzed him up. Told myself I'd look at his stupid pitch, say no one final time, and be done with it. Marcus arrived with a leather laptop bag and too much confidence. He sat up at my kitchen table, pulling out spreadsheets and charts that looked professional but meant nothing. So here's the breakdown, he started. Initial investment of $100,000 gets us through the first 8 months. By month 9, we project our first revenue. By month 18, we're profitable. By month 24, early investors see a 200% return. Based on what data? Market analysis, similar apps in the space, our unique value proposition. Do you have any actual revenue? We're pre-revenue. That's normal for startups at this stage. Do you have any users? We're pre-launch, but we have interest, major interest. From who? I can't disclose specific names due to NDAs, but trust me, big players are watching. I looked at his spreadsheets again. Everything was projected, assumed, based on best-case scenarios and magical thinking. Marcus, I'm going to be honest with you. This looks like every failed startup pitch I've ever seen. Lots of projections, no substance. You're asking me to gamble $30,000 on a maybe. I'm not doing it. His smile finally cracked. You know Chloe warned me about you. Said you were uptight, controlling. That you've always been jealous of her because she's creative and you're just a corporate drone. And yet here you are begging the corporate drone for money. I'm not begging. I'm offering you an opportunity. But fine, be short-sighted. When this takes off, don't come crying to Chloe about how you missed out. I won't. He packed up his laptop, his movements jerky with anger. At the door, he turned back. You know what your problem is. You think being responsible makes you better than everyone else. But really, you're just scared. Scared to take risks. Scared to believe in people. Scared to actually live. Get out! He left. I locked the door behind him and leaned against it, hands shaking. 5 minutes later, Daniel came over to find me sitting on the kitchen floor. What happened? I told him about Marcus, about the pitch, about the final insult. He's wrong, Daniel said firmly. You're not scared. You're smart. There's a difference. Everyone thinks I'm the bad guy. Everyone is wrong. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. My phone lit up with another message, this time from Aunt Susan. Eleanor, I've been praying for you. I think the devil has gotten into your heart. All this anger, this resentment toward your family, it's not healthy. I'm worried about your soul. Please come to church with me Sunday. Let's pray together. I almost threw my phone across the room. The devil hadn't gotten into my heart. Reality had. The reality that I'd been used. That love and manipulation had been so thoroughly entangled I couldn't tell them apart anymore. Monday morning arrived, my last day before Ireland. I went to work, tied up loose ends, said goodbye to colleagues who genuinely seemed sad to see me go. My boss pulled me aside. Eleanor, I just want to say you've been an incredible asset to this company. Whatever you're leaving behind, I hope you find what you're looking for over there. Thank you. And for what it's worth, taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I wondered if she knew, if somehow the whispers of my family drama had reached the office. But it didn't matter. Her words landed exactly where I needed them. That evening, Aunt Susan showed up at my apartment, again, this time with Mom. I answered through the intercom. What do you want? Eleanor, please. Mom's voice cracked. Just let us come up, just for a minute. We brought you something. I shouldn't have. I knew I shouldn't have. But I buzzed them up anyway. They arrived with a small wrapped box. Mom's eyes were red from crying. Aunt Susan looked solemn, like she was attending a funeral. We wanted to give you this before you leave, Mom said, handing me the box. Open it. Inside was a necklace, a simple silver pendant with 4 hearts interlinked. It represents our family, Mom said. The 4 of us, forever connected. It was beautiful. It was also a weapon disguised as a gift. I can't accept this. Why not? Because it's a guilt trip wrapped in silver. Mom's face hardened. Everything is a problem with you now. Every gesture, every attempt to reach out. Every attempt to manipulate me, you mean. Aunt Susan stepped forward. Eleanor, I've known you since you were born. This isn't you. This anger, this coldness. This isn't the sweet girl I watched grow up. That sweet girl was exhausted. That sweet girl said yes when she meant no because she was terrified of disappointing people. That sweet girl is gone. So what, you're just going to run away? Mom demanded. That's your solution. Abandon everyone who loves you. You don't love me. You love what I do for you. There's a difference. That's not true. When's the last time you called me just to talk, not to ask for something? Just to see how I was doing? Silence. That's what I thought. We're your family, Aunt Susan said. We're supposed to be there for each other. Supposed to be, but it's only ever been one direction. I give, you take. That's not family. That's exploitation. Mom started crying again. How can you say these things? How can you be so cruel? I'm not being cruel. I'm being honest. And if honesty feels like cruelty, maybe you should look at why. They left after that, taking the necklace with them. Mom didn't hug me goodbye, just looked at me with this expression of deep disappointment like I'd failed some test I didn't know I was taking. I closed the door and felt nothing. Not guilt, not sadness. Just a strange, settling emptiness. Tuesday, moving day. I had everything packed in 2 suitcases and a carry-on. That's all my life amounted to when I stripped away the obligation and the guilt and the constant scrambling to make everyone else okay. Daniel drove me to the airport. We didn't talk much. There wasn't much to say. He was flying out Friday to join me. 3 days apart, then we'd start building something new together. At the departure gate, he held me tight. I'm proud of you, he whispered. I know it doesn't feel like it, but you're the bravest person I know. I don't feel brave. I feel like I'm running away. Running away would be easier than this. You're running toward something, toward yourself. That's terrifying and brave all at once. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. We won't forget this. I showed Daniel. He read it and shook his head. Neither will you. That's what they don't understand. You won't forget what it feels like to finally choose yourself. I typed back carefully. Neither will I. Then I powered off my phone and boarded the plane. As we lifted off, I pressed my forehead against the window, watching the city disappear below. Somewhere down there was my family, my history, the web of obligation I'd been caught in for 3 decades. And I was leaving it all behind. The flight was long. I didn't sleep. Just sat in that strange liminal space between old life and new, between who I was and who I might become. When we landed in Dublin, it was raining. Gray skies, cold wind, everything damp and miserable. It felt like freedom. The company apartment was in a neighborhood called Ranelagh. Small, modern, with big windows that looked out onto a street lined with cafes and bookshops. It was empty of furniture except the basics. Empty of history. Empty of ghosts. Perfect. I unpacked in silence, hung my clothes in the closet, set up my laptop on the small desk, made the bed with sheets that smelled like nothing that held no memories. That first night, I ordered takeaway from a local Thai place, sat on my couch eating pad Thai and watching rain streak down the windows. My phone was still off. No one knew if I'd arrived safely. No one knew where I was or how to reach me. I'd never felt more alone. I'd also never felt more myself. The first week was disorienting. Work was intense as expected. New office, new team, new protocols. I threw myself into it, grateful for the distraction. My colleagues were friendly but professional. No one asked invasive questions about my personal life. No one needed anything from me except my work. It was glorious. Daniel arrived on Friday as promised. I picked him up from the airport, and seeing him step through arrivals felt like taking a full breath after years of shallow ones. You made it, he said, pulling me into a hug. We both did. That weekend, we explored the city together, walked along the River Liffey, got lost in Trinity College's library, ate fish and chips in a pub while locals sang traditional songs. Everything felt new and old at the same time, like stepping into a life I was always supposed to live. Sunday evening, we were making dinner in my tiny kitchen when Daniel asked the question I'd been avoiding. Have you talked to them? No. Are you going to? I don't know. He didn't push, just nodded and went back to chopping vegetables. But the question sat with me. I'd been in Dublin a week. They didn't know if I was alive or dead. That felt cruel even after everything. That night, I turned on my phone for the first time since landing. 43 missed calls, 68 texts, 21 voicemails. I didn't listen to them, didn't read them all, just scrolled through enough to get the gist. Anger, guilt trips, accusations, the usual. Then at the bottom, a text from Chloe sent yesterday. Marcus and I broke up. I moved back in with Mom and Dad. I got a job at Target, full-time. Just wanted you to know. No request for money, no crisis to solve, just information. I typed back slowly. I'm sorry about Marcus. Breakups are hard. The job sounds good. Proud of you. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Thanks. Are you okay? That question. That simple question. The first time in years anyone in my family had asked it without wanting something in return. Yeah, I am. Are you? Getting there. Target sucks, but the discount is good. I laughed. Actually laughed. Hang in there. You too. We didn't talk after that. But something had shifted. Some tiny crack in the wall I'd built, not big enough to walk through, but big enough to let a little light in. The next few weeks settled into a rhythm. Work during the day, exploring Dublin in the evenings, weekend trips to nearby towns with Daniel. I was building something I'd never had before, a life that was just mine. Mom called on my birthday. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Happy birthday, sweetheart. Thanks, Mom. How's Ireland? Cold, rainy, beautiful. Are you happy? The question caught me off guard. Not, are you coming home? Not, have you changed your mind? Just, are you happy? Yeah, Mom, I really am. Silence. Then, in a smaller voice, that's good. That's really good. We talked for 15 minutes about nothing important. The weather, her garden, Dad's new hobby of woodworking. She didn't ask about money, didn't mention Chloe's business venture, didn't guilt me about missing Thanksgiving. When we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in years when talking to my family. Peace. Daniel and I were making dinner that night when I told him about the call. That's progress, he said. Or a trap. Maybe. Or maybe distance is doing what proximity never could, making them see you as a person instead of a resource. You think people really change. I think people adapt. When their usual methods stop working, they have to try something new. Whether that's genuine change or just better manipulation, time will tell. He was right. I couldn't know their motivations, could only control my reactions, could only maintain my boundaries and hope that eventually something real might grow in the space I'd created. Spring arrived in Dublin with shocking gentleness. Cherry blossoms lined the streets. The days grew longer. I started running along the river in the morning, something I'd never had time for before. I joined a book club with people from work, started taking an Irish language class on Wednesday evenings, made friends who knew me as Eleanor the project manager, not Eleanor the family bank. And slowly, so slowly, I almost didn't notice I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes, stopped waiting for the crisis call, stopped bracing for the inevitable request. They didn't come. The crises happened without me. They figured it out. Or they didn't. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. 6 months into my Dublin life, Chloe called. Not texted. Actually called. "Hey," she said when I answered. "Is this a good time?" "Sure. What's up?" I wanted to say something, and I need you to let me finish before you respond." Okay. I've been thinking a lot about everything, about how things were, and I think I owe you an apology. I don't think I ever realized how much you were doing for all of us, how much you were sacrificing. I got used to you fixing things, and I never questioned whether that was fair or right. It was just how things were. I stayed quiet, letting her continue. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't know if I deserve that, but I want you to know that I see it now. I see what I did, what we all did, and I'm sorry." My throat tightened. "Thank you. I mean it. You were right to leave. You were right about everything." "Chloe, no, really. Marcus was a disaster. The business thing was stupid. I was stupid, and I'm working on being less stupid." I laughed despite myself. "You're not stupid." "I'm 28 and living with my parents while working retail. I'm a little stupid." "You're figuring it out. That's not stupid, that's brave." Silence. Then, softly, "Do you think we can ever have a normal sister relationship, like without all the other stuff?" "Maybe. I don't know. We'd have to build it from scratch." "I'd like that. Someday. No pressure. Just when you're ready." We hung up after that. I sat with the conversation for a long time, turning it over in my mind, looking for the trap, the manipulation, the hidden request. But there wasn't one. Just an apology. Small. Imperfect. But real. Daniel came home to find me crying on the couch. "What happened?" "Chloe apologized." He sat down next to me, pulling me into his arms. "That's good, right?" "I don't know. Maybe. I don't know if I can trust it." "You don't have to trust it yet. You can just acknowledge it and see what happens next. What if this is all part of a bigger plan? What if they're just waiting for me to lower my guard?" "Then your guard stays up. Eleanor, you're not obligated to forgive them. Not now. Not ever. You can accept the apology and still maintain your boundaries. Those things aren't mutually exclusive." He was right. He was always right. A year into my Dublin life, I flew home for Christmas, not to stay with my parents. I got a hotel room, made it clear I was only there for 2 days, established firm boundaries before I even booked the ticket. Christmas Eve dinner was awkward. Everyone was trying too hard. Mom kept asking if I needed anything in this overly solicitous way that felt performative. Dad barely spoke, just grunted at appropriate intervals. Chloe and I exchanged small talk about work, about Dublin, about nothing important. But we got through it without an explosion, without demands, without crisis. It was the best Christmas we'd had in years, precisely because everyone knew I could leave at any moment, and there was nothing they could do to stop me. On my last day, Mom walked me to my rental car. "Eleanor, I know I've made mistakes. A lot of mistakes. I don't expect you to forget them or pretend they didn't happen, but I want you to know that I'm trying. We're all trying." "I know, Mom." "Are you happy? Really happy?" "I am." She hugged me then, and it felt different than before. Less possessive, more like letting go. I flew back to Dublin with a strange feeling in my chest. Not quite forgiveness. Not quite trust. But maybe the beginning of something that could eventually become both. Daniel proposed in March. On a cliff overlooking the ocean, wind whipping our hair, rain threatening on the horizon. The ring was simple, just a small diamond that caught the gray light. "I love you," he said. "Not for what you do, not for what you give, just for who you are. Will you marry me?" I said yes without hesitation. We called my family that night to tell them. The reactions were mixed. Mom cried happy tears. Dad said, "About time." Chloe squealed and immediately started talking about bridesmaid dresses. For a moment, it felt almost normal, almost like a regular family sharing regular joy. Then, Mom asked about the wedding. "Where are you thinking, here or Dublin?" "Dublin," I said firmly. "Small ceremony, close friends, immediate family only if they want to come." "Of course we want to come. But Eleanor, honey, a destination wedding is expensive. We'd have to pay for flights, hotels." And there it was, the old pattern trying to reassert itself. "I know, that's why we're keeping it small. If the travel is too much, we completely understand. We can celebrate with everyone when we visit next." Silence, then, "Oh, okay. No guilt trip, no demands, just acceptance." Progress. We got married in June. Small ceremony at a historic house outside Dublin. 15 people total. My parents came. Chloe came. Aunt Susan didn't, which honestly was a relief. It was perfect. Simple. Ours. During the reception, Dad pulled me aside. "I'm proud of you, Eleanor. I don't say that enough, but I am." "Thanks, Dad. You did what you had to do. I didn't understand it then, but I do now. You saved yourself. That took guts." It was the closest he'd ever come to an apology. I took it. That night, dancing with Daniel in a room full of people who loved us, I realized something. I'd spent so long thinking that leaving was the end of something, but really it was the beginning. The beginning of a life where I wasn't defined by what I could provide, where my worth wasn't measured in wire transfers and sacrifice, where I could be loved for who I was, not what I did. It had cost me relationships, cost me the comfort of familiar dysfunction, cost me the false security of being needed. But what I gained was worth infinitely more. I gained myself. 2 years in Dublin, then 3, then 4. My career flourished. Daniel and I built a life that felt like home in a way my childhood house never had. We adopted a dog, a scruffy terrier mix named Murphy, who had more energy than sense. My relationship with my family evolved. We talked monthly, not weekly, not daily. Monthly felt right, enough to stay connected, not enough to fall back into old patterns. Chloe and I became something like friends. She was still figuring herself out, still making mistakes, but she wasn't making them on my dime anymore. She got promoted at Target, started taking community college classes again, started dating a guy who actually had a job and no get-rich-quick schemes. Mom and I developed a careful peace. We talked about gardening and recipes and safe topics that didn't require excavating decades of hurt. It wasn't the relationship I'd wanted as a child, but it was the relationship we could actually sustain. Dad and I probably had the strangest evolution. He started emailing me articles about Dublin, about Ireland, about European history. No commentary, just links, like he was trying to understand my world from a distance. I appreciated it more than I could say. Some relationships are too broken to fully repair, but they can be renegotiated, rebuilt on better foundations, given space to become something new. 5 years after leaving, I was sitting in a cafe in Dublin working on a presentation when a young woman sat down across from me. "I'm sorry to bother you," she said, "but I overheard you on a call earlier. You mentioned you're from the States." "Yeah, moved here 5 years ago." "Can I ask, was it hard leaving family behind?" I looked at her, really looked. Saw something in her eyes I recognized. Desperation, exhaustion. The particular weariness of someone carrying weight that wasn't theirs. "What's your name?" I asked. "Rebecca." "Rebecca, why are you really asking?" She laughed bitter and knowing. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to someone who's been there." She told me her story. Different details, same structure. Family who needed too much. No boundaries. No appreciation. Just endless taking disguised as love. "I don't know if I can leave," she said finally. "They need me." "Do they need you, or do they need what you provide?" "Is there a difference?" "There's every difference." We talked for 2 hours. I didn't tell her what to do, didn't advise her to leave or stay. Just listened, shared my story, let her know she wasn't alone in feeling torn between loyalty and self-preservation. When we parted, she hugged me. "Thank you," she said, for understanding. Take care of yourself, Rebecca, whatever that looks like for you. Walking home that day, I thought about how many Rebeccas there are in the world. How many people are drowning in obligation and calling it love. How many are sacrificing themselves on the altar of family and being told it's noble instead of tragic. I can't save them all. Can't even save most of them. But maybe by telling my story, by being honest about the cost and the choice, I can help someone else see that there's another way. That saying no to what drains you is saying yes to what sustains you. That leaving isn't always running away. Sometimes it's running toward. That you can love your family and still need to protect yourself from them. That peace doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't announce itself. It comes in the quiet moments when you realize the phone isn't ringing with another crisis. When you can breathe without calculating the cost. When you wake up and the first thought isn't, who needs what from me today? If this story hit home, if you saw yourself in these words, hit that like button. Subscribe because you deserve to hear more stories about choosing yourself without apology. And comment below. Tell me your story. Tell me what boundary you're too scared to set. Tell me what freedom would look like for you. Because maybe together we can figure out how to rewrite the contracts we never agreed to sign.